Farmers can now use a more cost-effective alternative for regenerating native tree cover when retiring less productive or vulnerable areas of their farms. Vet, ecologist and farmer Dr Alison Dews is owner and director of Tipu Whenua, a sustainable land use consultancy. Alison works across multiple projects on sustainable farming and improving water quality, with farmers like John Burke, who helped develop what's called the Timata method.
I was involved with a primary growth partnership initiative called Manuka Research Partnership, where we were investigating the retirement of marginal pastoral land into Manuka for honey production, high UMF honey production. And we had conducted trials across 400 hectares in various parts of New Zealand using low density, 1,000 stems to the hectare Manuka planted in forestry grade, to lower costs for farmers as part of establishing the business case for retiring land into Manuka. But I thought, well, let's just apply it in general land retirement for critical source areas. So those are the fringe areas along riparian areas and also some of our steep erosion-prone land. Well, if we look at our landscapes in New Zealand and look at land that naturally reverts, most of it's going into nursery crop species which are essentially either Manuka or Kanuka. It's a matter of getting the density right to manage cost. And so on sort of fairly fertile sites, you could plant as wide as 3 by 3 metre spacings, which is 1,100 stems to the hectare. But on our tougher sites, we've bored it into more like 2 metre spacings, which is 2,500 stems to the hectare. Whereas traditionally, I think the traditional method of retirement is actually closer than that, as much as 1 metre spacings, 1.5, which is between, say, 4,500 and 10,000 stems to the hectare. But we've done that on our farm and we've seen overcrowding, so you actually get dieback and the plants go into this sort of phase where they're trying to fight each other, and so that the cost is so much greater there. So that's one of the reasons why we've gone on a wider spacing. This is an example of a forestry grade plant. This is a kohuhu, a pittosporum. These get packed in cardboard boxes of 100, and so planters can readily put them in their planting bags, get out and plant them very quickly, up to 1,000 stems per day. This is your traditional type plant. You see you've got the plastic, which is a problem, but then you've got the bulk of this plant to get them out onto the site, plant them and deal with that. So that's why you're sort of restricted to only being able to plant about 200 stems per day. If we're re-landscaping Aotearoa, which New Zealand farmers are being required to do, it's really important we have an integrated weed and animal pest management program. And at the moment we haven't got that. And farmers, we want to see success. We're not going to invest money unless we see success. So it's really important that government, regional councils and farmers and catchment groups are aligned in terms of what we need to do in that area.
We're in a sensitive catchment, in the lakes catchment in Rotorua, and we've had to reduce our nitrogen. So as part of that, I've sold some nitrogen and also retired the steep slopes, anything that's over 26 degrees. So have had an integrated land management approach and put it into low cost, I suppose, natives restoration. So have worked out a way to cut the cost of establishing natives on half the property. The Timata method is what I was counselled through by John Burke, who'd done that on his property at Pukekohe, and it's around using forestry grade species at either 2 metre or 3 metre spacings, and the goal of this is really to cut the cost of establishing natives rather than what the conventional method has been of around $30,000 a hectare. This methodology can reduce the cost by about $20,000 a hectare. But we have to be mindful that it's best going into clean pasture or pasture that hasn't got a lot of heavy weed or pest burden, which that farm or my farm's like that. And often when we take animals off and it's been, well managed in pasture, you don't have a heavy weed burden, so it's a good opportunity to use this low-cost planting method. If we look at our landscapes now for their biophysical capabilities and weaknesses, a big component is that farmers don't have the money to spend 30,000 a hectare or a component of 30,000 a hectare. So the barrier is certainly cost. The other one is having the knowledge about how to do it more cheaply and more successfully. Just having the advice and support, because it's sort of a 3 to 5 to 7 year process to make sure that they get established in a manner that gives you canopy closure and allows establishment of the other canopy trees to come through. The goal is that we've seen successful ngahere establishment at this low-cost method, which potentially can save 20,000 a hectare. And if we extrapolate that across the whole of New Zealand, where we know there's about 1 million hectares of highly erodible land and pasture, that's a saving potentially of $20 billion.
If we look at Ellison's block, we've got 3 metre spacings. I think if we did that again, we'd probably do it at 2 metre spacings because it's a fairly hard site. And if you look at the size of those trees now, you would probably have canopy closure because those are 4-year-old trees. With the Tamata method, we're continuing to learn and sharing knowledge between ourselves. So you've got Tane's Tree Trust, you've got Manaki Whenua Landcare, and you've got Scion. And so we're all on this journey together. And if we look at, say, Ellison's plantings with the tōtara, I think one of the learnings might be that we could have left planting those succession trees for another 2 to 4 years until the nursery crop was bigger. Out of that, we'd have a more sheltered environment. We'd gain better tree form with a single stem. But not only that, the soil biome will have been developed in terms of handling friendly fungi for those trees to thrive.